House unveiled a flurry of new mandates this week, and while doing so, Biden said something else is under consideration right now, a vaccine mandate for all federal employees. When confronted about it by a reporter, this was his response.
Will you require all federal employees to get vaccinated?
That's under consideration right now, but if you're not vaccinated, you're not nearly as smart as I thought you were.
How nice of him. And speaking of vaccines, the CDC is reversing course yet again. They're now saying that those who are fully vaccinated should wear masks indoors. Oh, and that kids should also be wearing them in schools this fall. So it brings up the question, why would people want to get vaccinated if there's no reward? Well, a reporter confronted the White House about this logic, and this is what Jen Psaki had to say.
Still, then why do vaccinated people need to put the masks back on?
Well, Peter, first of all, I would say again, just to go back to this chart, which I will handily point to again, if you are vaccinated, it can save your life. And I think the clear data shows that this pandemic is killing, is hospitalizing, is making people very sick who are not vaccinated. That still continues to be the case, regardless of what the mask guidance looks like.
The vaccines work, which this sign says that they do. Then why do people who have had the vaccine need to now wear masks, the same as people who have not had it?
Because the public health leaders in our administration have made the determination based on data that that is a way to make sure they're protected, their loved ones are protected, and that's an extra step given the transmissibility of the virus that they're advising people.
So she didn't really answer the question, shocker. And as you already know, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I think you should be able to make the choice and if it makes sense for you. But now the Department of Justice has declared vaccine mandates legal. 3 major government entities, including the Department of Veterans Affairs, California, and New York City, all announced that they would require some or all of their employees to get vaccinated or be tested weekly. Join me now to weigh in, criminal defense attorney and anchor at Law and Crime Network, Bob Bianchi. Bob, thank you so much for joining me. So, Bob, I hear a lot of people that are very concerned about their civil liberties being violated, and they're wondering what options they have when it comes to fighting back. A lot of people feel like they're being pushed into a vaccine that hasn't been approved by the FDA yet, which is understandable. People will have questions and concerns. There's other people who already had the virus, so they feel like they have an immunity, and science backs that up. So they were like, well, do I actually need to get this? And then also there are parents who are concerned about their kids and whether they're too young to be getting these vaccines. And kids generally are not the ones affected by the virus. And on top of all that, the vaccine is available for anyone who wants it. So the new argument now is that you're protecting adults who know about the vaccine, who don't want to get vaccinated for whatever reason. So what can people do if they're concerned? I mean, obviously, you're not forced to work somewhere. You can make that argument about a lot of things, like if you're treated poorly at work or discriminated against, you're not forced to work there. You can go find somewhere else. But now people are getting forced, they're pushed into a vaccine that maybe they don't want to get.
Well, Stephanie, a lot to unpack there for sure. But let's take it from the legal perspective as a legal analyst. Because a lot of times people are conflating and mixing up their personal opinions about the vaccine and masking versus the legal issues at play. And Stephanie, from a legal point of view, the fact is since 1905, the United States Supreme Court in a case Jacobson versus Massachusetts on the smallpox vaccine had made it very clear. And from that time all the way into today, it's precedent, as we call in the law, that the government has a legitimate interest in making sure that people take safe and effective vaccines as decided by a majority of scientists in the country, and that they can mandate things like masks and vaccines to both public entities and private entities in order to protect the general public health, safety, and welfare. Now, you may disagree with whether you should have to get a vaccine or wear a mask, but from a legal point of view, it's a no-brainer. This has been settled for over 115 years.
So what you're saying is those who are opposed to this really just have no legal options? Like it's just case closed?
Yeah, I mean, as a matter of law, you have, like you said before, if you don't like it, the government regulates a lot of things for the health, safety, and welfare. I remember a big debate happening about wearing motorcycle helmets, and people felt their individual freedoms were being violated. But a lot of people think that individual freedoms is where it ends, and it doesn't. The government has the ability to be able to infringe upon your individual liberties if it protects a greater societal interest. So from a legal point of view, you're out of luck.
What about religious exemptions as well as those who have medical issues? I had a young woman on this program, and she has concerns about some issues she might have due to some illness that she has. So that's why she can't get vaccinated, and now she can't go back to college. And then there's other people who, for religious exemptions, can't get the vaccine.
Yeah, well, there are some exceptions. That makes it a little bit murkier there in the legal territory when you're talking about religious exemptions. And what businesses should be doing in order to avoid any kind of liability is making, quote unquote, reasonable accommodations for that individual to the extent that they can. But the bottom line is, for a business or for a public entity, if they believe that they cannot make those reasonable accommodations, they're going to be on safe legal ground with respect to that. But they got to be more careful when you're dealing with that religious freedom exemption, for sure.
Absolutely. I want to shift gears here and ask you about this story. It's kind of a crazy story, and it was reported on by the New York Post. And they said a New York surgeon and a beauty queen wife just settled their divorce amid claims that she's a hooker. So this was like kind of like a nasty divorce battle that they had going on. And the reason he got divorced is because he saw that not only was she a hooker before they got married, but she was like a working prostitute while they were together. And so he wanted the marriage completely void. Is this like a New York thing, or what can people do if they find themselves in this situation?
Well, like my father says, a moment of pleasure, a lifetime of pain. But what you try to do is not be in that kind of situation. But Stephanie, this really is unusual. There was a 240-plus page submission to the court that basically said from the beginning of this relationship throughout their marriage that she was acting allegedly as a call girl, as a prostitute, if you will, despite the fact that he had given her hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's a very successful and financially well-off individual. So, to answer your question directly, does it happen all the time? It's the first one I've ever seen, but nothing surprises me in the law. There's all sorts of fraud in the inducement, if you will, in trying to get somebody to marry you or in a business deal, what have you, that people go to great lengths to cover up their illegality or things that they're doing. And this poor guy found out by seeing a text message, or I believe, or an email, and then ran it down. And apparently this was going on for years, where she was saying that, or for a significant period of time, that I'm going out with my girlfriends, when in fact she had was subsidizing her income. So,
yeah, she had been doing this since November 27th of 2015. That's when they met, and then she continued on through 2021. And according to documents, it says she made close to $700,000. She was like a high-dollar prostitute. And yeah, she was hiding it the whole time. And so he was wondering how she was making money. And she claimed that she had like a tech startup and that she had like angel investors. And then she was like pretending that she was going to China and going on these trips to work on her project. And it was all a lie. And she even lied about her education. She never went to college. She didn't even finish high school. But she like made up this whole grand story that she was educated and had all these great things. The poor doctor was totally duped. And so I guess she probably didn't get very much from him during this divorce, since the divorce was void, or the marriage was void.
Yeah, I mean, no, of course not. And what's really sad about these cases when you deal with them, and I do really criminal and domestic violence cases, but a lot of times those bleed into the matrimonial legal scenario. And, other than, public speaking, I think getting divorced is such a hard thing on people. But when somebody has been covering something up for a significant period of time, it is such an unnerving, unsettling, and life-altering situation, not to mention how embarrassing it is that you're plastered across papers across the entire United States, basically telling your showing your dirty laundry to people. So I really feel bad for this guy, or anyone who's in a situation in which somebody is lying to them in order to get married. You see this a lot in the context of people that get married. They're looking for immigration status, and then as soon as they get their immigration status, they leave the person. It can leave a devastating mark in a human's life. So I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, handsome doctor too, Dr. Han Jo Kim, and I don't know. Seems kind of sad for him. But and this was Miss Connecticut USA Regina Turner. So have a feeling it might be hard for her to get a date after this. That's for sure. Well, we're going to leave it here. Thank you so much.
You got it, Stephanie.
Of course. Coming up next,